Today, I want to share a very true story with all of you. There was a man who had just been released from prison. From his teenage years until today, he has been in and out of the police station and even the prison. He had tried robbery, causing harm to others, and drug trafficking. One day, a journalist came to invite him for an interview.
Why do you have the current outcome in your life?
I grew up in a confusing environment. My father was not only an alcoholic gambler, but also abused my brother and me when he came home. My mother was a prostitute and addicted to drugs. You can imagine how confusing it was to grow up in such a family.
Do you believe your upbringing created your current outcome?
Absolutely. My parents didn't even know how to cherish their own lives. Growing up in such an environment, I also became an incomplete person. I hated my family and myself, and sometimes I felt angry.
You just mentioned you have a brother, right?
We are twins, but unfortunately, we haven't been in contact for a long time. And I have also lost his contact information.
Out of curiosity, the journalist finally found this man's twin brother. It turned out that his brother lived in another state and was a successful and respected businessman there. The journalist then interviewed the twin brother.
Why do you have the current outcome in your life?
I grew up in a confusing environment. My father was not only an alcoholic gambler, but also abused my brother and me when he came home. My mother was a prostitute and addicted to drugs. You can imagine how confusing it was to grow up in such a family.
Do you believe your upbringing created your current outcome?
Absolutely. My parents didn't even know how to cherish their own lives. Growing up in such an environment, there was a possibility that I could have become an incomplete person too. So, to avoid becoming like my parents, I learned to cherish myself even more. If I don't cherish myself, no one else will. From a young age, I worked hard, learned to cherish those who love me, and eventually learned to forgive my parents.
Did you notice that many people believe that because of a situation, A leads to outcome, C? Just like the first man in the story, he thought that the problems in his family upbringing led to an unhappy life when he grew up, and for him, that was true. However, we also see that his twin brother had the same family upbringing, situation A, which resulted in a different outcome, C. It is not difficult to understand that various complex situations arise in our lives, but the path from situation A to outcome, C, is influenced by our own perspective. B. In the workplace, emotions can significantly influence our development and perspective, B. Studies tell us that whether a person can become a successful leader is 90% controlled by emotional intelligence. However, 93% of that 90% is related to self-awareness. Being able to empathize with ourselves truly, being aware of our own situation, values and perspectives, B, and gradually improving ourselves can bring us different breakthroughs. If in our lives, we only focus on the good or bad situation, A, we will be like riding a roller coaster with our moods going up and down like the stock market's results. If the outcome, C, keeps changing with the situation, A, making high-level decisions becomes difficult. Inspired by the coaching process and the application of innovative management frameworks, it can profoundly help us understand our deep-seated perspectives, B, and needs in empathy, and also helps us better understand the thoughts and needs of our teams and customers. In the next video, I will share more about the benefits of self-empathy. Thanks for watching.